Every day you get to see dumb drivers, and today you get to see the best examples of them all in one video. Hello everyone and welcome back to another compilation of idiots on the road on our channel. Seems like you're enjoying these, so stick till the end because I promise you'll leave with a smile. Let's begin right away. If you're smart enough when pulling out on a road that has multiple lanes, you would know better than to only look in one lane and not the rest, because the result of that can be catastrophic sometimes. While running a red light, this arrogant driver almost missed getting rammed in by a few cars, and they still proceeded to make the same mistake and didn't look twice until the imminent happened. Racing down the road with your buddies is nice, but only when it is empty. Swerving in between cars like this is just plain dangerous and waiting for something to go wrong, and it did for these guys. This Kia driver has to be the most confused person out there as they first make a U-turn and start sliding a front-wheel car for no reason until the driver ends up finally losing control and hitting an innocent driver. The first rule of towing a truck is to tow something that's not out of your vehicle's towing capacity because, well, common sense, am I right? Well, this guy lacked both an awareness of the rules and common sense. Stopping in the middle of a road like this is a disaster waiting to happen, and this Dacia Duster ends up digging its own grave. James May will not be pleased with this person for ruining such a beautiful car. This clip just might have the most sudden, absurd, and funniest start of any clip out there. Imagine having your day start like this, being both the spectator and the person involved. Not paying $125 is alright, but paying your mechanic hundreds because of your short-sightedness is completely acceptable for this driver who's causing all sorts of damage to his car. We can all agree that takeovers like this are just absolutely unnecessary, but even people who go to them will also agree that this guy's a lunatic for trying to burn rubber with his traction control still on. Here's another idiot who had his fun time turned into a bad time for himself when he managed to hit the pole and anchor his car right into it. No insurance in the world is going to be managing that. The streets of London are already narrow and small, and yet people park on both sides of them. Somehow this genius thought it was a nice idea to play around on one. Not having fun anymore, are we? Potholes are already hard to spot, and this guy thought there won't be any here, hidden under the water on the road. Time for a new axle. Legend has it that this driver cannot be contained by any sort of fence mankind has ever created, and is still running through them. People already have a hard time trying to understand how to go through intersections, and these guys decided it would be better to just race through one. Here we have another bunch of buffoons that thought they had enough skills to race safely in traffic, but ended up clipping a poor taxi driver, causing him to crash along the side railings of the road. The warnings and concept of slippery when wet applies to everyone, and especially truck drivers who tend to think they can still speed around and make sudden turns like this one, who almost faced the music. This puddle seems to be a very famous one, as all sorts of people in all sorts of cars try to overpower it but end up just exactly like this Jaguar and its driver, stuck and in need of an engine replacement. This man got his truck stuck up on a pole, and when he tried to take the thing down, it bounced so hard that it deployed its curtain airbags. That hat just flew off his head too. Everyone seems to be in a rush, especially when it comes to crossroads like these, and at this point the fault belongs to both of them if you ask me. Teslas are supposed to be safe cars due to their autopilot and warning systems, but when the drivers are as stupid as this person, then why would you blame the company? Once you see someone slowly cutting in front of you, it also becomes your duty to make sure you don't deliberately pit maneuver them out of control. Two wrongs don't make a right. Some people are so rude that when they want to change lanes, they just go for it regardless of a car being right beside them. Get yourselves a dash cam, people! The driver of this car with a camera is so lost in their world that once they make this turn, they don't bother to stay in their own lane and end up brushing against this Mercedes, claiming they had the right of way. When traffic gets jammed like this, it would be best if you just waited for it to pass instead of doing what this idiot does and going all the way around it because of impatience. Some people, on the other hand, forget how important it is to keep your eyes focused on the road ahead, as even highways can come to a sudden stop as well. Speaking of which, sudden dips and bumps on the road are also on the list of things you could expect to run into as well. Even in broad daylight, these guys had a tough time seeing these. As soon as the light turns green, these drivers start going immediately, as they should, and the driver of the blue car has their idiot detector go off. They immediately stopped, whereas the other car was not so lucky. If there's one thing you can never justify, it's driving on the wrong side of the road, but the driver in this orange car seems to make it his birthright and starts arguing back. Something as simple as making a turn in unison with another driver can become a problem for people, as these guys seem to have a confusion about who should drive into what lane. You have to be especially mindful about driving in the snow, as it makes driving fast a regretful decision, and these two drivers are here to explain why. So many cars are stopped on the shoulder, and it might be a group trying to rendezvous at this spot, but a driver who might be drunk gently flies by them and hits the car at the very front. People need to either have a stroke or fall asleep and be drunk at the same time to be able to pull a move like this. This is why I believe there should be dividers on every road. This white car is playing a dangerous game called If I Brake, I Lose. He's going at full speed and dodges a car, making a legal turn only to end up pushing another car off the road. A driver coming out of this underground garage almost hit another driver who was driving past. It was nobody's mistake in all honesty, yet the two end up fighting each other. Here's another driver that tried to squeeze in through the wrong lane, but this driver came up with a brilliant plan to box him in and punish him for his stupidity. This driver, as he is driving down the road, is met with a driver who is as confused as a baby just born into the world, unfamiliar with cars, and doesn't know if they should make a turn or drive straight or go off-roading into the ditch. A speeding driver overtakes this car from the opposite side of the road and tries to make it double by making another attempt, but fails as he strikes a car coming the opposite way. Tram tracks are not meant to be driven on, yet this driver is driving on them to make easy overtakes. As he tries to do the same thing on the other side, he ends up rear-ending a parked bus. You never know when an idiot could strike you, and this poor guy was letting pedestrians cross the road until someone rear-ended him. The shoulders of the road are not meant to be driven on and are for emergency vehicles or for drivers who need to stop their cars, and this person thought it was an express lane just for them. People just wait for the worst time to pull out when you come closest to them, and this bus driver did the same thing and paid the price when this poor guy couldn't brake on time. A police car pulls out onto the road without any sirens or lights on. The driver of a red Prius ends up T-boning the officer because of his mistake, and now nobody's going to be reaching the emergency on time. With the bonnet already broken clearly, this driver is probably not suited to be driving on the road at this point, and all it takes is one fast turn to make them spin out of control. Porsches are really great cars, and yes, they do have cameras and sensors, but when a good car meets a driver that doesn't know how to drive, that makes for a totally different situation. It is idiot drivers like these that make sure that nobody can have nice cars, and this poor guy had his bumper broken by one of these guys, but he knows how to mend everything. Miatas are cute and small and probably the easiest cars to handle, and for a person like this to end up crashing one on the streets is just a sign of a bad driver. You know it's a skill issue when you buy a nice car that's meant to drive like anything and you still end up crashing it, like this Ferrari. The same goes for this guy and his Lamborghini. It even has all-wheel drive! Well, I guess some people are hopeless. There are two frustrating things in this video, the first being the beautiful AMG crashing and the second being the cameraman who had literally one job. This questionable Rolls-Royce was just cruising down the road when the driver at the front braked hard, leaving no room for this driver to act as he least expected this to happen. The BMW M8 is a beautiful car, and this one has gotten into the hands of a driver who seems to be driving a car for the first time because they just crashed the thing. Meanwhile, on the other hand, we have this guy who took his rental Ferrari out for a drive in Dubai and ended up crashing the thing almost as soon as he got it. I just want to be as bothered as this lady who doesn't have a single clue as to maybe why her car is not driving as well as it was yesterday. The whole wheel's missing. Here comes a flying Porsche, and trust me when I say that it actually takes a bit of effort to crash these things on your own. This Lamborghini Aventador was giving these people a good rev, and when he set off to merge onto the road, he had the slightest bump with an oncoming car. There is such thing as too much fun. When you see people stop in the middle of the road right next to a slippery slope in the snow, then it might be best to avoid that place yourself, and this guy thought he could do it until he turned into the worst example yet. A good car enthusiast remembers this turn, and a good driver can make it look even better. Sadly, this C63 driver was neither and ended up wrecking this car in front of everyone. Similarly, this girl came out of this corner a little too hot in her Ferrari 458 and spun out, after which she forgot she had brakes and still managed to crash after she had already saved it. Similar to Porsches, McLarens also boast a lot of grip, and this guy still managed to crash his 570 while trying to weave through heavy traffic. This has to be one of the most confused and downright bad drivers in the world. This lady has crashed into this van while making a turn and made a very bad attempt to back up. It's taking her ages to make a decision, and when she does, she repeats the whole process all over again. Rain can get the best of us if we're not careful, and this Porsche driver tried to overtake a Honda but only ended up embarrassing himself. Reverse parking means going back, and going back means looking behind you. This girl doesn't look back even once. Not once! This trucker's lane was about to come to an end, and it seems that he accidentally pit maneuvered this poor pickup truck driver. His reaction is the funniest part of it all. What do you do when you see an approaching crossroad? You speed up, of course, like there's no tomorrow. That car flipped around like a piece of cardboard. Truck drivers should know that it is best for them to stay behind another car in this case, as overtaking is just not what trucks can do nicely. This one simply ran into oncoming traffic because he was so slow. This driver, on the other hand, saw cars stopped at an intersection and yet proceeded to only brake when it was just a few meters away. As soon as the SUV at the front makes a turn, a very entitled driver comes in to ruin the day for everyone by driving with his hands over his eyes. This is why you need to make sure you have incredible visibility while driving, because you never know what you'll find in the middle of the road, such as a stray tire. What do you do when you see a helicopter parked on the side of the road? You do what this trucker does and drive right close to it and make sure your vehicle is high enough for maximum damage. This ambulance is rushing through this intersection and gets sideswiped by another car, causing a chain of funny reactions that nobody would have expected. This towmaster is showing us his skills on how he gets the job done, and in all honesty, I think I can do a lot better than him. This is one for all you truckers out there. Before you go out on your long journey, please make sure you guys get enough sleep, because without it, disasters are just waiting to happen on the road. To this day, I have not understood why truckers seem to always be stuck on train tracks and can manage to cross mountains and thousands of miles of travel. That car bounced as if it was part of a cartoon. Always keep your eyes on the road ahead, because you never know when the driver in the front could brake and stop in an instant. Even dumpsters on the road are not safe from these people, as this driver just simply crashes into one. He had his lights turned off as well, and that's a good sign of a drunk driver. For this one, I'd have to put the blame on the camera car, because sure, the other car pulled out at the wrong time, but this person had years of braking time. Speaking of drunk drivers, here's one trying their best to stay on the road, and they're clearly doing a bad job of it. However, it's not enough, and the result is very predictable. All of the traffic on this highway is slowing down because of one foolish idiot who's making their way across the road at a pace slower than a snail. That should be instant jail time for drivers like these. While overtaking, always make sure that first you're not being overtaken already, and this driver made the mistake of not checking this, which ended up with them spinning out in a wrecked car. A driver who was probably drunk pulled off this GTA sort of move and destroyed a pump in this gas station, causing a huge fire to erupt. Here's the definition of play stupid games, win stupid prizes, and these guys just won the lottery after that little stunt. On a peaceful day, the calm is shattered when a trucker comes barreling through cars and nearly misses these ones at the very last second. This girl had one job to do, and that was to be careful. Safe to say that it was either this sort of crash or the one that's shown in the news. This is a race between two car manufacturers and two idiots who don't know how to drive their cars, and the race ended just before they could reach the finish line. If there was a reward for overreacting and blind driving, these two would probably take the gold medals. These guys are just driving through traffic until it comes to a sudden halt. Everyone brakes except for the people behind this driver, and you can just see how many times she gets hit. Someone tried to recreate the flying Tesla video and ended up actually crashing even harder than the Tesla. There was a calm before the storm, the calm being the good driving done by this person, and the storm being him getting rear-ended by someone with the exact opposite set of skills. If there was a video that could show us an online GTA lobby in real life, then this might be as close as it can get.